Welcome to the Hustler's Handbook Podcast. I'm Easton. In this show, we explore the stories of relentless go-getters, uncovering the secrets behind their success. We talk life, work, and everything in between. The highs, the lows, and the grit it takes to keep pushing forward. Tune in and get inspired right here on the Hustler's Handbook Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Hustler's Handbook Podcast. I'm your host, Easton Johnson. Our guest today is Alex Mazhukhin, aka Mr. Build It, a DIY home improvement YouTuber with almost 1 million subscribers. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Easton, man? Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. So give our listeners a little bit about your background and what got you into home improvement.
Yeah, so graduated high school in '06, went into medicine, did the whole respiratory therapy thing, got my degree, moved to Idaho, did respiratory therapy for almost 10 years. And my wife and I were kind of the traditional kind of newlywed situation. Broke family. We got kids really early. Wife wants to make a house into a home. You're trying to provide that. The paychecks are stretched really thin. So you kind of got this whole thing of like, well, let me see what I can do. And so I kind of got into these whole like Pinterest accounts and Instagram accounts, see what people are making, building. I know West Elm was really popular back then. This was, we got married in 2012, so this is a while ago. And try to replicate all that stuff, post it on social. And then over a course of time, it just kind of did what it needed to do, and it kind of evolved. I evolved, and I've been doing YouTube full time for almost 5 years now, but I've been doing YouTube for 8.
Wow. And what inspired you to go from just learning stuff from Instagram to wanting to, help others out and create your own channel on YouTube?
I don't know if it was necessarily wanting to help others out. I think I always had this goal of, I remember back in 2016, maybe it was actually summer of 2015. I just got into this whole, when you're building something and you're creating content online and you're putting it out. Back then, I think Instagram was the hottest one. You're posting the stuff and you're seeing people that are actually making a living out of it. And I remember working at the hospital and working 12-hour shifts. My kids were really little, 2 under 3, and I'm working night shifts, and I'm missing all these first time, when the kid finally were working on getting the wheels off the bike, or the assisted wheels off the bike. And I wasn't there when they finally got to do all these things. Finally, I was there to help them, but I wasn't there to experience it. And so I remember talking to my wife. I was like, I think there's these people that are actually getting free tools online by posting the stuff. They're sponsored. And I was like, hey, if I devote 4 years of my life doing this at 120% just to get some free tools, would you be okay with that? We had this conversation in 2015, and she's like, yeah, that's fine. And if it doesn't work out, I was like, I will walk out of this. I will never do this again. I just give it 120%. And she was on board with that. And that kind of evolved into this whole, like, I want to make a day job out of this. I don't want to necessarily, the goal was not to help people. The great thing about it is that helping people kind of evolved out of it. But the goal is always to get myself to get the free tools out of it.
Mm-hmm. And to maintain the consistency with the content creation, how are you able to do that? Because I think one of the biggest challenges with a lot of people right now is maintaining the consistency of posting and engaging with other people who may be interested in the same topic. So how did you maintain that consistency?
Well, the engaging part, it's a loaded question, because the engaging part is something that I first did in the very beginning. And then later on, I found out that the engagement part does nothing but gives you more self-destruction. And what I mean by it is that out of, let's say, I'll post a video, it got whatever amount of views that I think to my standards that are on par, or just that was a good video, that's fine. We're not going crazy, we're not going low. And that video will have probably 4,000 comments. Now, if the video got, let's say 100,000 views on it and 4,000 comments, that means such a small percentage of people that actually decided to comment, right? It's like almost filling out a survey. How many people actually fill out surveys, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. So it's a small percentage of people that are actually commenting. And in the very beginning, engaging was something that I was like, well, I got to engage because I got to feed this algorithm. And the reality is for those 4,000 comments that you'll get maybe 1,000 good comments, and then you'll get 5 bad comments calling you a poser and you don't know what you're doing. And then that will get into your head. And because you're still a nobody, it will start messing with your mind so much that you don't want to be productive later on. You don't want to hustle later on. You don't want to stay up late. And so I had to make these rules in my life to make sure that I don't allow anything that's going to mess with the positivity and the mission plan that I have. That I'm going to be goal oriented. I'm going to focus on creating the video that's going to get the views, that I don't need to focus on responding to a comment. Now, if it's truly somebody seeking for help and advice, I'll respond to them. But if it's somebody saying, forget this dude, or hey, nice job, I put them at both neutral, that I don't pay attention to them. Now, the second part of the question is, how do I stay on top of it? Is I really think the only recipe to at least my success has been always obsession. Is if you obsess about something so much that you don't get shifted any other way. Like I don't like to go on vacations. I don't like time off. I don't like Saturdays. I do because I get to finally not work. But it makes my brain go crazy because I'm constantly studying analytics. I'm studying colors that people are more psychologically attracted to on the color wheel. I'm studying hooks. And that gives me a lot of joy. And so when something gives you a lot of joy, like going to the gym, you want to keep doing it. So the obsession has been the driving force since 2016.
So when you first started, at what point after like recording and posting did you realize like, hey, I can actually do this?
Well, I don't know if I ever got to the point that I thought that I could actually do this, because I always knew that I was one video away from actually something happening. So I would work nights, I would sleep during the day. When I finally wake up before my shift, I'd go build, create the thing, try to put out a video a week. I would film, edit, all that stuff all myself. I would have multiple cameras in the garage. And I was just on this whole goal of like, I'm one video away. Whether or not that I can do this, I think I've always had it in the back of my mind, because it's the same perspective of if your wife finds a coffee table that is, $600 and it's not in the budget to go buy one, it's the same lie / confidence that you get of like, I could do this. Like, let me try it. Like and the reality is half the time it doesn't turn out to be exactly perfect, but it just got you one step closer. So I don't think I ever got to the point of like, had this confidence. The confidence really was the confidence in me that hell or high water, like I'll get there. I just need some time.
And so with all the posting and stuff, when COVID hit, did that make a positive or negative effect on you? Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so when COVID hit, it made, well, I'll actually kind of walk you through the stuff. I don't think I've actually processed it. When the COVID first hit, there's a lot of content creators that were getting a lot of strikes against their channels because they were probably speaking for or against the COVID thing, right? So you really have to be minding your P's and Q's about the type of content you're putting out. Fortunately, in my genre, there's no reason for me to voice an opinion on COVID for any aspect at all. And keep in mind, I used to be a respiratory therapist. I was there during peak COVID. And so, there's a lot of different perspectives. In terms of how did COVID kind of work its way towards a content creator? So there's this theory that I kind of had was, well, if people are staying at home, then they're just binge watching anything, right? I don't know off the top of my head what are the top series that came out. I think Tiger King was one. The Last Dance was one, and this is all the stuff people were just binge watching. So I assumed that YouTube would be the same thing. And fortunately, when COVID hit, it was like it was almost like a launching platform for when my channel actually took off. And now I don't know if it's because of COVID and people are actually staying online a lot. Because in content creation world, in terms of YouTube, we have cyclical periods. Like specifically in DIY, spring is a very hot time. People are like, hey, we want to do this to our house. We want to do this to our backyard. Summertime, it continues. Come Thanksgiving, people are making New Year's resolutions. People are spending time with their families to be more disconnected from socials and be more connected with people. So content world kind of has a cyclical lifespan. In terms of COVID wise, I think I got really lucky because people were at home and I was already like 68 videos in. And keep in
Mm,
mind, I haven't made more than 200 bucks at this point on
mm,
YouTube.
mm,
And it just so happened that one of my videos hit traction. I specifically remember this bathroom transformation that I did. It hit traction and it was performing at like a nuclear rate where it would hit 4,000 views an hour for a week straight. So it hit a
wow.
million views right away out of the first week, which has never happened to me on my channel. And that put me on my first 100,000 subscribers. And because
Mm,
that happened, it also, people saw that I had a huge catalog of stuff because of just creating stuff.
mm,
And it launched another 5 videos behind it, not at the same rate, but really fueled them on an upward trajectory in terms of if you look at the analytics. And I, it took me 4 years to get my first 100,000 subscribers.
mm.
COVID hit, finally got my first 100,000 subscribers, and then a month later, I got my second 100,000 subscribers
Wow.
because of all the work that's already been put in. So COVID was kind of this weird launching platform. Um, Kind of, they say about what success is. It's preparation meets opportunity, and I think
Mm.
uh, that library was that preparation, and the opportunity was people were just kind of stuck at home watching.
Hmm. That's really cool. I mean, yes, it's such a, we're in a pandemic during that time, but, to be able to almost utilize that time and not sit on their butt like most people were and just like sitting around dwelling, like, let's help people out, let's keep this content going. So, I mean, it worked in your favor, so that's really good to hear, man.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, it was kind of interesting because I had other content creators that were reaching out to me and they go, "Hey, I feel bad creating content right now because I feel like I'm using these people." And I'm like, "You're not using anybody. You're just putting
Hmm.
out content and people want to consume content. And you're not
Yeah.
forcing anything down their gullet. You're not playing on people's heartstrings or their circumstance. People want to watch stuff. And if it just
Hmm.
means that Game of Thrones gets to put out an extra episode that week, then everybody celebrates."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like you're like a certain niche within the DIY that you feel like has really improved your viewership, whether it be like bathroom remodels versus, other projects that you have done? Do you feel like you see like a growth in a certain area of DIY?
Yeah, so I kind of got indexed when I first started. I did what every new YouTuber would do. They just kind of
Mm,
create what other people have created.
mm,
I was a big fan, inspired by Casey Neistat, who was a vlogger, and I kind of shot stuff the same way he shot it in terms of time lapse photography of cars driving by in the downtown area. A lot of similar style of music, and then eventually I kind of found my own voice in it, and I found that voice within. It was funny because you could actually see a black and white trajectory of me creating stuff that other people, similar stuff that other people did, kind of
mm,
weird stuff almost, and
mm,
to me transitioning to home improvement stuff. And when I got started, there was not a lot of home improvement stuff out there. So by me taking on these overwhelming projects, almost kind of indexed to me as, okay, this is more of an original piece of content. You're doing like fixer upper style content at scale, at that level of scale
mm,
on YouTube. And though there were probably other people who were trying, but I kind of did it, I think, at my way, and I think that kind of resonated with people. In order,
mm,
like, almost in a way of going, like, okay, let's just demo the crap out of this entire space, look at a
mm,
blank canvas, and do something new out of it. Versus somebody would be like, hey, we're gonna update our vanity. So we just kind
mm,
of thought, let's just take what level people are doing it and then just raise it up a couple of notches. And if
mm,
we end up losing money on it, great, we lose money, but we threw everything at the wall at it. But at the end of the day, content is content and ideas win all the time. And if you, whenever you feel that, hey, I'm a little bit over my head on this, chances are you're probably on the right path.
mm. And I was actually going to ask you that. My next question was, out of all the projects you have done, have you ever done any projects that you were like, okay, maybe I'm in over my head on this project, or maybe it's a little bit more than I was expecting?
That's a great question because we just finished a year-long series called the Abandoned House series, and we bought a 60-year-old house at an estate sale where the gentleman passed away. And when I'm saying it's an abandoned house, it's everything and everything of his possession, and he was kind of borderline hoarder but with like
Oh,
mechanics and cars and stuff like that. And so he had, 9 lawnmowers in the backyard. He had
wow.
6 cars in the backyard. He had every wrench and tool from 60 years ago and every little radio that was broken. He had every newspaper for the last 40 years. Like everything was there. And the
Mm,
house was falling apart. The roof was falling apart. And whenever I'm asked that question, I always go back to that house because that's the one that we just finished and we finally sold it off. That when I look at my earlier starting videos on that series where, we had to raise the roof of a garage by 12 inches. And by
mm.
we, I mean me. I usually say we because I have a videographer with me. But it's one that my palms still start sweating every time I watch those videos because it's one of those things that if I told the younger me, should I do this? And I'd probably say no. So that was definitely one that I'd say I was way over my head on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That's interesting to hear because, I'm sure at a certain point you're like, yeah, I can knock this out and then be realizing how much more you have to do. Because I've seen a few DIY shows and it's like they hop into it with this mindset of this is all we're gonna do, and then some issues pop up. So I was just really curious about that.
Well,
Um
60-year-old house, man. That's the problem is you're not dealing with one owner. You're dealing
mm,
with however many owners were there in those 60 years. And it was funny because when we demoed the kitchen, you saw 3 different kitchen layouts that were there. You see where the
mm,
plumbing used to be. So it's a hodgepodge, and the guy
mm,
added on and took them off, and it was never a blank canvas. And that's the problem that you start dealing with. Is there's certain people that do work on their house and they do it the right way, and there's kind of the stigma of like older houses typically are built stronger. That's true,
mm,
unless somebody who is a jack of all trades and a master of none comes in and they start just messing with things just to make it work, and it ends up being destructive. And you know, years later down the road, somebody like me comes in to try to do something more modern on it, and you gotta figure out where they went with it because now the floors are not level, the foundation's not
mm.
leveled because they quote unquote DIY'd it.
Yeah. So with like all you've done in these past few years, what do you think has been the biggest accomplishment for yourself with all of this?
Um, that's an interesting question. An accomplishment. Uh, well, that's a hard one to answer because accomplishment makes it feel like you hit the finish line,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I don't think I'm anywhere. One of my things is always being dissatisfied with everything I do, and I think it's
Mm,
a good thing because if I'm dissatisfied with drywall finishes and it's keeping me up at night, I'm gonna on the next drywall thing, I'm gonna try something new to get me one step closer to it.
mm,
Um, and so we've done all this content, and we maybe lost money, maybe made money, but I think if I was to look at an accomplishment on it, well, is this is a third piece of property that I own outside of my own personal home, and it to me it's kind of a cool accomplishment because I was kind of raised in this weird mindset where I was a terrible, you know, school was very difficult for me, as you
mm.
remember. I don't know if you don't, but I was a really just ADD ADHD kid that couldn't focus. And when you kind of grew up in this kind of environment where people tell you that you're going to be nothing better than a garbage man, you try to go through this whole trajectory of college education, and then after you're done with that, you're still not financially comfortable,
Mm,
and you come up and create something completely different that nobody believed in you for and they thought it was silly, especially with kids. And that kind of made something of it where
mm,
we have magazine publications, we sold series to streaming platforms, there's recognition, and I think maybe that's the accomplishment. I
mm,
never really sat down and processed what an accomplishment is because that we're not there yet. We're just
mm,
we're always behind, and there's nothing to celebrate right now. But I'm sure if my wife, who's the loveliest person in the world, if she was to sit me down, she goes, "You idiot! Look what you have done. You've accomplished
mm,
this. You're published in Better Homes and Garden. You're all this stuff." And I'm like, well, maybe okay, cool, but so
mm,
I don't focus on the accomplishment. There's a lot of work to be done.
mm. And so you brought up before, like with the social media and even just like the DIY projects, like a lot of it was self-taught. So what made you want to get to a point of like just doing it on your own versus like hiring some people on? Because a lot of times when people do social media, it's like, okay, I can do the DIY, but I ain't got the social media aspect, or vice versa, where it's like, hey, I've got pretty good at the video editing. Why?
Yeah.
What made you want to just do this solo?
Well, I'm not solo anymore because I have videographers now. I
Mm,
have people that come out off camera, sometimes on camera that help me out. But when I first got started, the answer is pretty easy. It's there's no money, right?
mm,
So when there's no money, you can't pay anybody. You can't outsource to edit. You can't outsource for anybody to create thumbnails. You can't outsource anybody to create a design concept. You can't outsource, hell, even this, we did the roof on the house, and we were laying down the roof again. Well, I had some help on that, but you're laying down this roof in 100-degree weather. That's the last place on earth you want to be. But if there's no money in the budget, then you end up going, okay, then I'm going to roll up my sleeves and do it myself. Yeah, I
mm,
think I think money sometimes, especially money in the beginning stages. I think a lot of content creators. So let's say you're a content creator and you just got started. You put out your first banger, right? You put out either a DIY video or a prank video or a whatever video, a banger, and it goes nuclear. It happens sometimes, but when it happens, it's really cool to watch. Brand new creator, zero subscribers, boom, you hit your first 100, 200,000, maybe even 500,000 subscribers out of the gate. All of a sudden you get hounded with a lot of management companies. Management companies
mm,
go, hey, we see potential in you. We want to sign the next new blank.
mm,
And they'll sign you and they'll put you on a very small payroll and they'll fund all your projects, but they have absolute all control on it. So I think money sometimes in the very early stages gets you into trouble for those reasons. It releases a lot of control. In the very beginning stages, it creates more of an innovative kind of person where they go, I don't have money, I'm going to try to build it. I don't have money, I'm going to go change my own oil. I don't have money, let me redo my own kitchen. And then you look
mm,
back and you save all this money, you learn some skill sets, you screwed up on some things, you redone them, and then you have one extra thing that you're taking on the next project that
mm,
nobody could have given you before. Knowledge, really,
mm,
and you're set up for success there.
mm. So, for somebody who's never seen your videos or knows who you are, what separates yourself from any other DIYer? Because there's a lot out there that's very saturated, for content. What separates you from any other content creator out there?
What separates me from any other content creator out there? Well, YouTube is kind of interesting. Especially in the DIY space, that over the years it's kind of evolved in the way content was consumed. When I got started, people were kind of just recording stuff and going on their computers and doing voiceovers to explain the process.
Mm,
And the algorithm has been changing over the years, and the way people consume content, TikTok is a great example of the way people consume content. It's the shortest form of content we've ever experienced, and we
mm,
were part of that evolution. Now, I was one of, I wouldn't say I was the originator, but I was the earlier adapters in the DIY space that actually put their face on camera and started speaking directly to the camera.
mm,
And that helped a lot because it almost creates a connection between the viewer and the person. That's part of it. I think that helped quite a bit. Now we're seeing more and more people in the DIY space too. So you're almost creating your own low budget home improvement show.
mm,
The second part of that answer is I think people always think that YouTube, people only show the best sides of things in terms
mm,
of a project. Look how beautiful it turned out. But the reality is, unless you've done this project over and over and over again, or you're a very meticulous person that has 3 months to sit down and focus on a garden bed and a garden bed alone, and you messed up, you turned the camera off, you redid it, and you got the thing dead perfect and everything. What I do is I like to showcase the problems that go through. I like to showcase
mm,
the imperfections and the lesson learned. And I think some of the feedback that I get from people face to face is they'll say, I like the fact that you show mistakes because I know that I'm going to anticipate those mistakes. And you're showing me
mm,
that you're only human. And I think there's an aspect of being relatable to the person that's creating the content when they end up doing it. And I think that's a sweet spot. If you can ever create a piece of content that people relate to you more than the project itself, they're not
mm,
praising you, they're not blowing smoke up your butt, but they go and be like, man, Good on you. I know your paint sprayer broke on you on that, and it was hot, and paint was splashing all over the place. You had to go get a brand new one. That's cool because that happens to people all the time, and you just made me feel that it's okay when that happens to me.
Mm. And I think that's very important to hear because obviously, you work out and you're in fitness also. And it's like that field itself is just saturated with perfection or false perception of perfection, and you're just showing the good sides of things and like, oh, I only eat healthy and I only have great days and great workouts. But the people who succeed are the ones who show up and like, hey, I had a rough day or I had a donut today and didn't work out. So
Yeah.
I think that is very important that you said that, you're real, you're showing the ups and downs of DIY.
Well,
Okay.
speaking of the fitness, I know you're in the world of fitness. I've kind of gone through this whole obsession of fitness and try to like stick to my numbers and watch my numbers and get my numbers checked and all this stuff. And I remember kind of getting to this point of like where the guy had to, because I would come in every 2 weeks to get my numbers scanned because I would adjust my diet, nutrition, and all that stuff. And he'd scan me. He goes, "You're this body percentage, fat. You're this muscle mass, whatever." And I finally got to this point. I go, "Hey, listen. I like how lean I am, but I also want to put on more muscle. It's easy for me to put on muscle if I get fat. It's hard for me to put on muscle when I'm sitting at 5% body fat. What do I do?" And he was like, "Listen, man, you got to make a decision. You're either what's more important to you, being lean or being bulky? Number one, before you ever get started, we go back to the very beginning of this conversation is if you are not absolutely obsessed with it, don't even bother to get started. Now, you could get started and hopefully the obsession comes, but if you're not losing your mind at your day job, clicking on the video, see that it only got 200 views on it, and you're looking at all these analytics and you're trying to piece it all together, and you're not losing your mind about that, then you're never going to make it. Because, unless you focus strictly on the ideas and you're just an idea machine and you go, now this idea, that idea, now this idea, that idea, that's fine as well. But that is also obsession. So if you don't have obsession, then there's no point of getting started because YouTube nowadays is such a competitive place where every minute there's 600 new hours of footage being uploaded to YouTube. So you're competing against so many people for attention, and you got to be an expert in that attention grabbing aspect, right? And that kind of leads me into the answer of like if I was to give somebody these bullet points of something to focus on. YouTube is a very simple platform. It's click, watch, and engage, repeat. Click, you got to have a damn good thumbnail on it. I mean, you got to have the right color corrections. You got to have the right, the least amount of words on screen with the most amount of attention grabbing aspect. You got to have that. If you're not clicking, nobody's watching. So you got to have that hook. Second part to that click is your title. When I first got started in this world, is you could type in DIY bathroom remodel and you'd get 100,000 views like that. Now you might as well be on the last page of YouTube. So you gotta find a story within that. You gotta find a dramatic aspect. Do you remember the old Esquire magazines at a checkout station at the grocery stores? The drama magazines, right? So it's like Prince Harry slept with who? The Queen is doing. So you go, what is it? And then you grab the magazine. So that's your clickbait, right? So you almost have this. You have to have this hook behind it. So that's your click. The watch. YouTube has a really cool analytic called the audience retention, right? So you'll see where people are dropping off. And if you have a 10-minute video and people are dropping off in the first half of the video, your video sucks because you're probably talking too much. You probably lied to them what this video is going to be about. You probably titled it, "You'll never believe what happened." And then you click it, nothing happens for the first 5 minutes of a 10-minute video. People are gone. So that's out the window. So you got to retain people's attention. And even if you promise them something in the beginning and you're bringing into fruition through this video, you got to be good at keeping people's attention. You can't have any lulls. You can't have any long series of seconds on the screen where you're just rambling on. Like the best example that comes to mind is how many times let's say you're trying to fix your lawnmower and it won't start. So you go, okay, let me watch a YouTube video. You type in lawnmower won't start. And you see this like 60-year-old guy going, "Good evening, folks. Today we're going to be working on my 2007 Briggs and Stratton Honda engine, so and so. The great thing about these little engines, you're like, I no, just get to, and so you're just zooming, you're just scrolling through. Get to the point. So the audience retention is very important. Can you keep somebody entertained? My whole kind of rule of thumb I always go for is create content as if you're creating content for an ADD person. And that kind of launched me into this like fast trajectory of people going, hey, is this guy on cocaine? You know what I mean? So then we kind of had to slow it down a little bit enough so we could still retain that attention and not make me feel like I do drugs. So click and watch. And then the last one is click, watch, and engage. The engagement part is I'm not a huge fan of promoting engaging with your audiences via comments because, like I said, you'll only focus on the negative ones, and those negative ones will keep you up at night. And if you're committed and obsessive enough to continue doing this thing, you got to stay laser focused. You can't focus on the haters. You don't need to find haters. You just focus on creating the next video and the next video. And you can't have anything shifting you off balance because the people that are leaving negative comments are the people who are dissatisfied with their life. And YouTube is the greatest life you can have because you don't have a boss, you don't have a manager, you don't have anybody to report. If you're not making enough money, it's up to you. If you're making too much money, it's up to you. If people are hating on you, it's up to you. So you can change every aspect of that. So I don't encourage people to read their comments. And that's not going to fuel your growth of your channel anyway. But the engagement part is the sharing part that I'll only focus on is if you can create a good piece of content and that encourages your friends to be like, hey, this guy has a good workout system, share that. Like I follow a lot of golf channels and I found this one Japanese guy in Japan and he's incredible and he simplifies the golf swing so well that I'm sharing it to my friends. The guy can't even read the stuff that I'm writing because he doesn't speak English. But the content is so damn good, it causes me to want to share with other people. So that's the engagement part. And then repeat. When you've created one video that somebody's doing that on, then, and you already have a library under you, you've put in the work, then it all gets, the flame starts growing. You can't expect having one video go out and it gets hundreds and thousands of views. No, like I said, it took me 68 videos to get my first paycheck. So just hunker down, keep making videos, focus on the next video, and just remember, you're just one video away. When is that going to happen? It could happen within a year, but my bet is going to happen in a few years, and you have to be okay with it. So the question is, how obsessive are you about it?
So with everything you've done, do you have any like future goals with everything you've done? Because you said you're not satisfied, you're always going to keep going. Is there any like specific goals you have at hand that you want to reach? Or is it just kind of keep pumping out content and wait till something shows up?
That's another really great question because I've never sat down and processed what my goals are. I try to find projects that are over my head and I try to tackle them. So I'm not staying stagnant. If I can continue making the living that I'm making right now for the rest of my life, I would be super satisfied. Hands down, let's close up shop. But that's not how this works. If I was to have a goal, I think right now my goal is to create different ventures of YouTube. I don't want to be on YouTube for the rest of my life. Not because I'm not grateful for what it's given me, but I don't want to be a 50-year-old dude creating YouTube videos. One day I'm going to be irrelevant, and that's the cold hard truth. Because there's somebody's going to be better than me, who's going to come in to do everything that I do in a better way. And I think the older I get, I don't want to put that much more stress on me because it's a lot of stress of having to film, be a personality, and then do the project as well. And chase deadlines. I think if I was to have a goal, I think my goal would be create a venture out of this, which we're already doing. We have properties on the side that we're building using the income that we made out of YouTube. We have a Spanish channel that's dubbed into the Spanish market, so that's already happening. But one thing that I'm really excited right now about creating that I've never really sat down and said it was a goal, but I think I'm as excited about it as my YouTube that I first started is my middle kid, Beckham. nine. He's 9, and he loves the world of YouTube. And
Mhm.
I know he's kind of like me when it comes to schooling, where it's just so difficult to focus versus his brother. It comes so easy, just like my brother.
Mm. Mm.
That we're kind of working on starting something for him, obviously under my supervision and my
Mm.
my kind of hosting. But it's something that is, because it's one thing when you do something for a long period of time, like I have, you lose the spark. You stop
Mm.
getting excited about videos performing well, and you don't really focus on videos performing bad as much. And sometimes it's a bad thing. So you got
Mm.
to shake things up. And there's no greater motivation than seeing a kid being excited. It's funny
Mm.
because in my line of work, I no nobody my age cares that I do YouTube. The only people that are excited about, most of them think I'm unemployed, to be honest with you. But like I'm just like a guy with an Etsy shop or an eBay account that they're like, oh, cool, you do YouTube, that's fun, yeah, yeah. I'll bring your family dinner or something, just help you guys in the hard times.
Right.
But it's
Oh.
honestly, it's all of my kids' like age group of kids that are like, no way, like my
Mm.
kids will come to me and say like, hey, my friend from school commented on your thing, can you pin his comment? That's the excitement that like that's the excitement that I'm trying to chase right now, is to get
Mm.
excited about content. And I think seeing kids build, and that's kind of the director we're taking, is we're creating a Mr. Billet kind of kids YouTube channel where I'm building with my kids and having them go through the problems and me,
Mm.
responding to and teaching them. And I think I'm more excited about that. So if I was to say what my goal is to be around creativity, because right now, um, I think I'm more excited about good ideas and the energy that comes out of the magic of working with your hands and
Mm.
creating content. And I think kids are right now doing that. And I think that's the part that I'm chasing, is how to be around that aspect, how to be around that level of energy that makes you excited about stuff. Again,
Mm. And that was kind of leading to my next question, and we're closing up, so don't worry, I'm not going to eat up all your time.
or
Like upcoming projects, so you said, a little YouTube series with your son. Any other upcoming projects for yourself, or any other things that you have going on?
yeah, we're a few videos ahead right now. So we got a few killer projects for longevity that we are finishing right now, both cold plunges and saunas and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, but we are gearing up right now for my biggest build yet. We're building a building from scratch. It's an A-frame cabin in the woods. We bought the
Mm.
land like 4 years ago, I think, and we're trying to create something out of it, and we decided to do an A-frame on it. So we're kind of
Wow.
going through all the permitting processes and all that stuff to get all the ducks in a row. It's going to be the most overwhelming project after this whole abandoned house series, because it's it's such a long drive to get there, and logistically we have to figure out how do we be there, create content, accommodate everybody's family schedules, come back. And again, it's a scary thing because it's new, but over the years of doing this, I've learned that whenever you have that feeling of it's scary, you're probably on the right track.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting, man. And I'm very happy that you were able to make it on the show. And I just want to tell our listeners, I reached out to you a while back when I first moved into my house. I was like, hey, man, making a man cave. Here's my ideas. What do you think? And I can only imagine you being like, cool, dude. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and hang up some posters and call it a man cave. Yeah, a lot of DIY there.
No,
Uh,
I don't have too much excitement about people, because if I give you a screenshot of every DM that I get of people sending me stuff, that's where I kind of go like, man, I can't. If I keep responding to people and give people ideas, I'm gonna need a
you won't
full
have
time
time for
job.
yourself.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna lose time for myself. So I get excited for friends. So
Mm,
for high school friends like us, I get excited about people doing stuff, seeing their successes, seeing what makes them excited.
mm.
And so no, there's nothing but love there.
I appreciate that. I just thought it was funny to think back on it. I saw it, just thought about it. I was like, wow, I really did reach out. Probably like 5,000 other people just like, hey, bro, I'm just working on this small project. A few tips. I'd appreciate it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure
yeah.
that can, just like with personal training, it gets exhausting. I'm only getting one or two versus thousands of messages. So
Well, I would
yeah.
say you got to give love to the people who have been there from the beginning. And man, you've always been very kind to me when we were back in high school and all that stuff. And I got so excited when you're starting a podcast that I wanted to jump on that as fast as I can, because number one, I wanted to connect with you, but number two, I wanted to hear what you're going through and new ventures and all that stuff. I'm excited for you.
Well, Alex, I appreciate that. And same to you, man. Like just seeing all your success, like watching you through the years. And literally, I was literally on YouTube a few weeks ago. Your video popped up. I'm not a DIYer. And I'm like, I should have screenshot it too. Cause I'm like, I'm not even a DIY guy, but your thing's like popping up and like being able to see that. And it's like, I didn't put anything specific to like have your thing show up, and just to see that is huge, man. So I'm super proud of all you've done. And it's hard work, and you brought it up. You're doing it. There's no like secret sauce. You put in the work, you're putting in the passion into it, and it's showing. I think that's the thing. Since doing this podcast and interviewing all these people, I think a lot of people or the listeners like know what to do, but want to hear it. It's like all you got to put in all the work and actually love what you're doing, and that alone is going to help you, because you're going to it's not going to second guess it. It's something you want to do, and you're going to pursue it 110%, and success will come with it. It may be 10 years, it may be 2 months, but as long as you're consistent with it, I think success is in there, so I'm super happy for you, man. I love seeing everything you're doing right now.
Thanks, buddy. And I'll add to that as well is be comfortable and be open to pivoting. I keep hearing some of the dumbest ideas from people sometimes, and like they'll be like, I'm starting a YouTube channel about real estate, because they're a real estate agent, and they're probably looking at it as, I'll market myself and people will come to me. Have you ever met a single person who's like, hey, have you seen this realtor? You should check out their YouTube channel.
I met him on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, most of the times it's like there's like one guy, I forget his name, but he's very successful because he tours these like multi-billion-dollar mansions, and you're kind of go like, let me check it out. But so many people have the dumbest ideas, and I don't knock on that. Do it, execute it, obsess about it, but be open to pivoting, because if you're just doing the same thing over and over, that's the definition of insanity. So you got to figure out, like, maybe start with the real estate thing, if that's just for example. But then if nothing is changing after a year, pivot to, maybe you need to change the way you talk. Maybe you need to change the angle of approaching real estate. Maybe we give advice. Maybe we show the do's and don'ts. Whatever it is. But like, I think a lot of people just get so hounded. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me and they go, hey, I did 10 YouTube videos and none of them working. Any advice? 10 YouTube videos? Homie, 68 videos before I made my first paycheck. Like, get up and work. You're one video away. Don't start celebrating those 10. Get excited about the next one and the next one and the next one. And I think that's the hardest part of content creation for people, is they go, this is going to be a get rich quick scheme because all these people did it. You don't understand how many hours we put in before we got there. And also, like, if I was to start another YouTube channel, I would do so much research and seeing what content's there and how saturated that market is. So if you're going to be like, I'm going to put out a real estate YouTube channel, see how many real estate YouTube channels there are, and then maybe that'll change your mind.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So just wrap the things up for listeners who don't know where to find you, or where social medias or YouTube's, how can they find you?
Yeah, any platform, just type in Mr. Build It. Doesn't matter which platform. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm a content creator, so we're all over the place. That kind of comes with the name of the game. In order to adapt in high times and low times, you have to be everywhere. So TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Roku, Rumble, whatever it is, Mr. Build It, you'll find me.
Dope, man. So thank you again, Alex. I want to thank you for joining the Hustler's Handbook podcast and giving so much information, man. I think it's going to help a lot of people, especially in the content creation area, because that's that's where we're at now. This day and age is so different, man. Growing up as kids, it's like, did you ever see yourself being like, okay, I'm gonna set up some cameras and videotape this? It's like, no, you're supposed to go to school, go to college, and work this boring ass job.
Yeah.
But no, it's really cool to see you step out of that comfort zone and switch careers and like go all in and thrive off of it, man. I commend you a lot for that.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate the love.
Yeah, for sure. So looking forward to, I'd love to have you on again sometime, maybe after a few of these builds and, see how that went. I think some of our listeners would love to hear how those new upcoming projects are going to go.
I would love it. Thanks, Easton.
Yeah, man. All right. I'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you again.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Hustler's Handbook podcast. I hope you found today's episode as inspiring and insightful as I did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow hustlers. Keep pushing, keep striving, and remember, the hustle never stops. See you next time.